Great. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Megan Jacobson, and I work for Sdsu Extension as a nutrition field specialist. We're so excited to have you with us this morning for our second Just for Me in July self-care series. For the next 3 weeks, we're going to be hosting some sessions, follow-up sessions on just much needed rest and relaxation, just self-care in general. So last week, if you were on with us, our first session, we had Sdsu Extension 4-H Youth Development Field Specialist take us on a mindful nature walk. If you missed that session, don't worry, it was recorded, and if you registered, you should have received that link to watch the recording. Let us know if you didn't receive that, and we can sure send that to you. As a reminder, each of the remaining sessions will include about a 15 to 20 minute guided activity. And then at the end, we'll make sure to save time for some questions. Feel free though, if you have anything that you would like to ask or that's on your mind while Audrey's talking today, you can go ahead and drop those in the chat. So for today, we have Audrey Rider with us, and she will be discussing some self-care techniques for individuals who are in a role of a caretaker. Before I introduce Audrey though, we would like each of you to put your name, where you're coming from today, and how you heard about this session in the chat box. So Audrey Ryder is the Sdsu Extension Early Childhood Field Specialist. She works at the Watertown Regional Center, and she has worked in various roles within Extension for the past 17 years. She has a daughter, Ada, who is 11 and will be going into 6th grade, and daughter Annie, who is 6, and she'll be going into 2nd grade. So like I said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. So without any further ado, let's get started, and Audrey, I will pass it over to you.
Sounds good. All right. And I'm gonna, if you can give me share screen capabilities there, Megan, then I will get my PowerPoint pulled up. But while she's doing that, my name is Audrey Rider. Like she said, I am really excited today. I'm gonna talk a lot about self-care for caretakers, and caretakers can mean children. You'll hear about my own children today. But you'll also hear some of these can be used for if you're caretakers for your parents, if you're caretakers for other maybe elderly family members. It's lots of different things like that. So caretaker can mean lots of different things. So I kind of incorporated that today because I know some of you might be in different roles or levels in your life. All right, so now I'll get up my PowerPoint.
Okay, and Audrey, you should be able to pull that up, but let me know if you're having any issues.
Should be able to. Do you guys see that?
There we go, yep.
All right, cool. Got started here. Okay. So like I put in the tab there, and we're going to do some different activities and talk about some different things today for taking care of yourself. But we tend to take care of a lot of other people first. And I love this series because it's really thinking about self-care for us. And I put on there like kids, parents, even our own spouses during this COVID-19. And you'll hear throughout my 20 minutes here, my husband is starting a new career, and I've had to kind of be that person to push him through our new career and new opportunities. But sometimes I forget to take care of myself. So we're going to go through some different things today. Excuse me. One thing I want to start out with is some mindfulness activities. One thing we did, if you were on last week, I believe Amber talked a little bit about mindfulness. Amber Letcher is kind of our mindfulness person and coordinator for Extension, and she does a lot of awesome activities. But I've also found in some children's books that I've used with some daycare providers and with my own kids during different situations, that there's some really great mindfulness activities that we can use as ourselves, and we can also use on our kids. So what I want to start out with today, just to kind of get us in the mood to think about taking care of ourselves and to kind of do a fun activity, is I want you guys to just close your eyes. We're going to do a mindfulness activity here for about a minute. First, take a deep breath. Now I want you to take and count 5 things that you can see. As your eyes are closed, count 5 things you can see. 4 things that you can touch. 3 things you can hear. 2 things you can smell. And 1 thing you can taste. Now do one more big deep breath. Let it out and slowly open your eyes. Isn't that kind of peaceful? Hopefully it was for you. The reason I did this activity is it is one you can do with kids. It's one you can do with your own kids at home, or if you're a provider yourself, a daycare provider. It just makes you aware of your senses. It makes them count different things, but it's very calming because you can think of 5 things you can see. So it might be 5 things they're really thinking about or you're thinking about. So I thought that was kind of a fun one, and that actually comes out of a book that I use called Becoming a Superhero. And it's actually a book that helps children who have experienced trauma, or used it a lot with this COVID-19 stuff with my own kids of talking about it. So some other things that I found that work for self-care, especially for you as a parent, as maybe taking care of your own parents, or like I said, your spouse, calming relaxation items. Just really making sure you're taking time for yourself. Like I said before, we usually try to take care of everybody else, so we sometimes don't take that time, but just simple little things. At my office, which I'm not in my office today, I have a stress ball. It's all right by my desk. If I need it, it's there, I can use it. Something else I found very interesting that I wanted to show you guys because it's very easy to make. And I'm gonna see if I can stop share here so I can show more of the video. On here, it's just a jar. This looks like just a jar with water, and it's got a lid on it with we didn't glue it on anything so we could change it out. But basically it's got glitter in it, and it's kind of hard to see a little bit, but it's got silver glitter. They actually made these in school with my children, and they called them calming jars. And I thought, okay, does this really work? And honestly, I have taken this and used this in my position and just taken it and really take focused time on the glitter. And this one has silver glitter in it, but you can add any sort of colored glitter. I've seen people also add in just different objects. And the point is to just really kind of watch that glitter fall down to the bottom and just let it be. Just watch it fall and take the time to watch that. And it will calm you. I sat and did it a couple times when I've been frustrated or things are going on. And by the time it all kind of settles down, I feel like, okay, now I can go maybe deal with my children or deal with the issue that I had coming up. So even having these around is awesome. And my kids love it now too. I've noticed too that this is something if I see my oldest daughter take this, or right now it's in my makeshift office here, and she'll come and take this, I know that she probably needs some time to calm down, and then I can go talk to her about what's going on. So it's kind of neat, and it's just basically a jar, put glitter and water in it, and shake it up and let it settle to the bottom. All right. So going back to some of our list of things, there's lots of other calming relaxation things. I put listen to music on here as well. That's one that my kids do a lot of. And I do as well. Even I'll have music on in the background working, or if I try to take that break during the day like I need to do, even just putting that music on in the background will help me. And those breaks are another thing. I didn't put them on here, but taking that break for yourself, no matter if it's even just 5 to 10 minutes. And maybe you have small children at home, and maybe you can't quite get away, but even just that little bit of time where you can maybe put them on the floor, or if they're in a swing, and just kind of get away and kind of take a deep breath. Maybe do that mindfulness activity that we talked about. But really, really taking that time for you, because if you don't, things will continue to build up, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So unplug and unwind. I have found that it's really important that we, even if it's like a 5 to 10 minute break, try not to be on, whether it's TV or your phone, just unplug and unwind. I get more frustrated by seeing things or getting on my phone and finding things out. So then I'm like, oh, I'm not really taking my break or calming myself down. I'm probably getting more upset about different things. So really taking that time to just unplug and unwind. I think it's really important too, as like our positions in Extension, we're on computers a lot. We're constantly checking things out with social media, with things like that. And so just taking that time. And whether it's like in our household, we've done where we don't really even turn the TV on or even check any media, anything in the mornings. It makes our mood so much better if we can just start out the day. And then, at nights we do kind of watch the news sometimes after our kids are in bed, but it just kind of depends. It makes it so much better when we're not so engulfed in things, and we can kind of unplug for a little bit and then get into the day. Understand your feelings first, then help your children understand their feelings and frustrations. The reason I put this in there is because we're role models. We're role models to kids, and as well as even like your spouses and maybe your parents and things like that. If you're showing frustrations about things, more than likely it's going to come out through them as well, because they don't know how to control them, especially kids. I find now I've been doing a lot of workshops on teaching resiliency. And, I never really thought a year ago when I picked up this program that resiliency would be this big, but it really is, because of the COVID-19 and just situations that we have going on in our world right now. They need help with that, and nobody's born being resilient. Nobody can pick it up right away. It's something we learn. And so that's really important that we teach kids how to be resilient, but we also first have to understand that. And so that's why I say understanding your feelings first is really important. And it's funny how kids will pick up your feelings. And again, I'm using my own kids as an example. During our COVID-19 world, and still when we're in COVID-19, it was hard in the beginning. I was having to come home and work. They were having to do school at home. And I was frustrated, and it was showing in them because they didn't know how to tell me about their frustrations, and they didn't want to because they knew I was frustrated as well. Once I kind of figured out my routine and how I was gonna make this happen, and that I knew we had to deal with this, then it really was a lot better, and they felt more comfortable talking to me about it. They've come more often and said, why do we have to do it this way? And they're more understanding of different things and feelings, and they can express them a lot better. So, and that was an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old. So, I mean, everybody learns in different ways. So, and then I have a husband. You might have husbands or parents that don't want to talk at all about it and just want to go, and that's okay. But sometimes, when you can tell the frustration, or maybe you see it in your own parents. I seen it in my own parents where it was, they were frustrated with the fact that they couldn't see their grandkids, and then they were just kind of shutting down. And so we had to figure out ways so they could still see them through the COVID world. And then once we got that figured out, it was much better, and I could tell their feelings, and ours and the grandkids were all kind of starting to get pulled together. And then I put this last statement on there before I move on. Remember, you are too blessed to be stressed. And I think that's really important, is that sometimes we forget about the blessings we have, and we stress out about all the things going on in our lives. So, and especially I found this recently, I really was in kind of a stage between March and beginning of June of okay, I really need to find stuff to do. This is just bothering me to be home. And now suddenly things have kind of picked up again. And now I'm like, oh, I almost kind of want to go back to the other world. So, it's funny how sometimes we think we just don't have, everything's kind of falling apart, and we're really stressed out. But in reality, we're very blessed with the things we have going on. So I just wanted to put that in there as a point. And then I put this as a fun quote. because I think it's very important to remind ourselves of this, and self-care is very important. But a lot of times with self-care, like I said before, we've compared ourselves, especially as women. I tend to do this a lot where I'll see a bunch of people on either my Facebook or different media things that I am on, and I'll compare myself like, oh, they're doing so great on this stuff, and I should be doing this. And so this quote, don't compare your life to others. There's no comparison between the sun and the moon. They shine when it's their time. And so I really think it's important to think about that as yourself, that don't compare yourself to everybody else. Do what makes you comfortable and what works for you to take care of you and your family. And I think that's super important now, especially in the situations we are in, to take care of your own family first. To kind of do a little bit of kind of self-care, as I was planning this, I'm a planner and I'm an organizer, and that kind of helps me a little bit at being a caretaker of my own children. But it also kind of gives me a sense of kind of calmness and kind of a plan for my day. And not everything goes as planned. I understand that. But I wanted to give you a few tips that I've kind of come up with, and then I'll mention a little bit too. I did write a book that talks a little bit about maximizing your day as a working mom, or even just a working professional, and how you can kind of be uniquely you is what it's called. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well too. But part of my planning and organization comes from finding things that work for you and your family. And this can be great self-care because it kind of gives you that organization to feel like you kind of have a plan for your day, your week, maybe even the month if you have it written out on calendars. But you'll see a couple things that I use in the next pictures, but planners, calendars, notes on your phone, anything that works best for you. I don't think there's one guaranteed way, but the more I have kind of my week kind of planned out, the better I feel, and I can kind of take time for me and to kind of say, okay, I know, like, for instance, Wednesday was a really busy day, but I can take some time in the afternoon to go do something for me, or I can even plan out, this is Friday. I got up early and I got a bunch of emails done this morning, and I can be with my kids this afternoon. And so even just kind of planning in that time for you and your family will help and make things a lot easier, so you don't have to worry so much about, oh my gosh, this is going to be a stressful week. Communicate with your entire family. As we're talking self-care, you think about really that, well, I need to take care of myself first. So why do I need to communicate with my family? But I think this is really important because the more you talk to your family, they'll understand what you're going through, and that they understand that you need some time for you. And it's really been interesting as I've worked from home. Now I'm doing 3 days a week in my office, 2 days a week. Even just working from home, my kids understand more now if we talk about it at family meals in the evenings about kind of my schedule and kind of that, okay, I have this meeting this morning and I am at home, and they know they're not supposed to bug me and be in, and they do their own thing and they have their list of things that they need to be doing. And so it does help me because I can relax and be able to do my job. I can take time for me if I need to go for a walk. I've gotten out of the house just to get out of my little office and go do walks and things like that. But it's really important to communicate that with them so they know. It also helps me because my husband knows, like, hey, I have this going on. I have another meeting later this afternoon. So he knows that he's not going to bug me by calling or being like, where are you? He kind of knows what's going on. So we do family meals a lot. I understand sometimes it's hard when you have older kids and might be doing activities, but even if you can do those family meals, at least a couple to 3 times a week, it's so important for kids and families to have that. You can have the communication going. That's a great place too to also talk about your feelings, talk about things going on from the day. What was your best part of your day? And it doesn't have to be at supper time either. It can even be at breakfast. I had one friend that said, well, Audrey, we have sports, we have all sorts of different things. We're never usually home in the evenings, and we just kind of eat when we can. I said, what about at breakfast? They said, aren't you guys all there before your oldest takes the 3 to school? And she's like, oh, I never thought of that. She said, I guess we could all just kind of sit down and eat breakfast together instead of everybody grabbing a bowl and going wherever. And she said it actually has helped a lot because she said they talk about how to plan out the rest of their day. And she said, that way I'm not calling my children or texting them 3 or 4 times a day to remind them about things we talk about today. So, and then the last quote on here, the last point I wanted to mention was, remember quality versus quantity. And something I wanted to mention for the self-care for you, because I went through this a lot, and I still do as a mom and a caretaker, is as you're thinking about life and as you might be stressed sometimes, remember that it's really the quality time you spend with your kids and with your parents, your spouse, and don't worry about the quantity size of things. And I do a lot of self-reflection on this, because there's times I'll see a lot of my neighborhood ladies around here, they are stay-at-home moms or help on the farm. So a lot of times I'll see them doing different things and be like, oh, I should do that, I should do this, you know? But then I've taken time and I remember that, you know, we still get to do fun things. It might be at 6 o'clock when I'm done with work, and it might be on weekends, but they're still getting that quality time with me. And so as you self-reflect, or you might take that break or that time, really think about that and think about the quality versus quantity. Because once I kind of got that in my brain that they're still getting a lot of these opportunities, it just looks a little different than what my friends might have on their social media or we talk about. So, okay. To kind of finish up here, this is my planner, and I just wanted to quickly show it. This is my planner because I color code things in my planner. So like pink is my personal stuff, yellow is stuff I need to work on for work, and green is like meetings or things like that that I need to go to for work. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it is something that finds something that you can use that works for you and stick with it and keep trying it. That by color coding my planner, I've done that for the last couple of years. That has helped tremendously because I use one planner and it's helped kind of organize my life. And that way I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I need to pull out my office calendar and here I need to do this. It's all in one place. Why I have this picture of this board, this is actually a board in my house. And I think as I was thinking about self-care, and I was thinking about how to kind of take care of yourself. One thing I always worry about as a mom and a caretaker is meals. I'm always worried about feeding my children, making sure we have different types of meals, that we have groceries. I mean, that can be a stressful situation now, even with COVID. I know, like, planning out when I'm going to go get groceries and making sure I have what I need. And so I've actually done meal planning in my life for probably 2 to 3 years now. And my mother-in-law gave me this board, and it's a dry erase board on this really nice wood thing. We have it right in our kitchen. And so every week I kind of plan out, at least during the work week and sometimes on weekends, but not as much, what meals we're going to have. And then I also, like you can see there, I put kind of what's going on. This was one that was from this last winter. So like my husband bowls. So like then we got to have a fun meal of corn dogs, ramen, and salad because we were home and my husband was bowling. So we got to have fun meals. But then I even put like different things on here, like donuts with dad. So like if my husband reads it, he knows that he needs to go do donuts with dad in the morning with his daughter. And just have different things on there like that. It helps me tremendously because I can see ahead what is coming up that I've had planned. The kids can see ahead, which they're pretty excited if they're like, oh, we get English muffin pizzas on Tuesday. But then I know, okay, I need to go to the grocery store Monday and get all this, or I tend to, like now with online grocery shopping, because of everything, I can kind of look the week ahead and go, okay, I need to order all this ahead of time and make sure I get it when I go to town Monday or Tuesday or whenever I go to town. And so I think that helps me a lot with self-care, because it doesn't make me so anxious. That is something that I did when prior to the 2 to 3 years ago, before I was doing this, I remember always coming home on my way home from work at about 5:30 going, what am I going to fix for supper? Usually I didn't have anything out for meat, so I'd be like, what can I thaw out? And kind of having that anxiety of like, oh my gosh, I don't know. And then my husband was nice enough, and we've been married for almost 13 years. About 3-4 years ago, he finally said, Audrey, we continue to have the same things. Could we try some different things? And I was like, oh yeah, okay. You know, but I was always just going to those go-to things because I didn't really have a plan, or I didn't have things for the recipes that I might have seen online. And so I just was like, oh, we're going to have meatloaf, or we're going to have this tonight. But now that I've kind of tried some different recipes or have those things available in my cupboard, it makes me so much less anxious, and I can come home and spend time with my kids and then make supper if I need to. So I wanted to just share that as a tip. If it works for you, that's great. But it is something I think, take care of yourself. As we kind of finish up here, this was a quote I wanted to just read to you guys, kind of just take the time to reflect and listen to it closely. Smile every chance you get, not because life has been easy, perfect, or exactly as you had anticipated, but because you choose to be happy and grateful for all the good things you do have and all the problems you know you don't have. This is a quote I remind myself a lot of, and I think it's important to remind ourselves of this. Not every day is perfect, but smile. We have a lot of things to be thankful for, and it's a way to carry it on to others. Once you smile, other people will smile as well. And so that leads to my other quote that I want to tell you guys, is optimism is a happiness magnet. If you stay positive, good things and good people will be drawn to you. This is by Mary Lou Retton. This is another quote that I've had to use a lot. Optimism is hard in this day and age when there's a lot of things going on in life. Sometimes it's hard and sometimes we can go to the negative side. But the more we're negative, the more our kids see that, and our spouses and parents, and then they can go down that same road. So as you're thinking self-care for yourself, if you can remain that optimistic person, more than likely they'll see that in you as well. And then happiness is a direction, not a destination. This is kind of my own quote that I've come up with the arrows and things like that, because sometimes and especially lately, sometimes I get so in the mode of, okay, if I just get to this, I will be happy. Or if I just can make it to this family vacation that we're doing, I'll be so much happier and I won't be as frustrated and let out my frustrations to my husband. But it's not a destination. It's a direction, and I have to remind myself of that a lot. So as you're taking time for yourself, remind yourself that try to be happy every day. Try to wake up happy. Try to think about the blessings you have. Because once you even get to that, maybe it's that family vacation, maybe it's getting to go camping, you will be happy and you'll have fun, but then you got to think about afterwards of how you're going to take care of yourself after. And so just thinking about that it's really a direction of how you focus on life. And so I wanted to leave this last page here of just, this is my business card, my information here with my email. We do actually have a family extension page, and it actually has a page for older adults or aging. And then I have a child development or child education page as well. And then there's family finances. So as you're thinking about it, some of you guys might be, like I said, in more of the taking care of your spouse and parent stage. And then most of you on here, I see several of you said you have younger children. And so there is like a lot of child development stuff on there as well to take care of yourself. And there's a lot of COVID-19 resources as well. So, and then like I said, I am an author. So I just put this on there that I'm an author of Uniquely You, which is a book about maximizing your day as a working mom and kind of really coming up with some organizational and planning things to do. So that's where some of the tips came from and some of the things that I've talked about. So I will put it back to this page and ask if there's any questions.
Thank you, Audrey. And while everyone kind of thinks of a question, if they have one, you can always type them in the chat or unmute yourself. I am going to launch a poll quick.
Okay.
So if you guys can take a minute here to just answer these questions as we wrap up.
And I do have, as we kind of wrap up, I'll have them answer those questions. And then I do have one mindfulness activity I wanted to kind of do as a very end one. So.
Okay, sounds great.
Good.
All right. Okay, we have a couple more people yet to answer. If you could take a look at the poll question and just take a minute now. All right, we have about 90% of you that have submitted a question, so I will go ahead and end. Thank you for filling that out. So thank you. And Audrey, yeah, you made a lot of great points and some new fun tips. And in the chat box, I know a lot of people like the glitter water bottle too. So,
Good.
So I will go ahead and end the poll. Audrey, if you want to do your activity now.
Yes. And this is another mindfulness activity. This one is, it calls for mindfulness to practice for grief, but it really, I think as I was reading through it, and I've done it before myself, just to kind of do a mindfulness activity for myself, I think it's just a great one to kind of do. And so I wanted to go through this at the end to kind of leave us in a calming sense and to help you understand a little bit about mindfulness and how easy it is to use. And there's a lot of stuff as resources online too. So take a few moments to find a comfortable position sitting. Sitting or lying down. I know it's hard with Zoom, but you can sit or lie down and close your eyes. And I'm going to kind of do this as I read it too. Put your hand on your belly and breathe in and out. Feel the rise and fall of your belly, breathing in and breathing out. In and out. Now imagine yourself wrapped in a warm, soft blanket. Imagine how cozy it feels. Let your whole body relax and sink into this blanket. Big changes in life can bring lots of big feelings. This can be scary and confusing. Let's see if you can imagine those feelings right now. See them now as bubbles around you. Some are big, some are small. Maybe they're even different colors. All kinds of feelings are in those bubbles. Sad, mad, scared, lonely. Maybe happy, relieved, and possibly even numb too. Just notice those bubbles. Let them be there. Notice how some may float away, some may change, and some may even pop. Now put your hand over your heart. Tell yourself, feelings are like bubbles. They come and go. They aren't a part of me. I can watch them change. Feel the warmth of your hand on your chest and know that all feelings are okay. Now I want you to put your hand on your belly again and go back to noticing your breath. Feeling your breath move gently in and out. In and out. Now gently open your eyes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Audrey. And we will have our next self-care session in a week, same time, same place. And I will be presenting on some key nutrients. And it was a perfect segue, Audrey. I'll be talking about meal planning and sharing some fun recipes with you all.
Awesome. Good.
Thank you. Everyone have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye-bye.